Thanks very much for joining us on this episode of Talkin English in association with Billiard Sports Network. Very near and dear to my heart, this subject. As people know out there, a bit of an amateur commentator, and for those that don't know, professional commentator Mike McMullen. Thanks very much for coming.
Maybe I'm an amateur as well in some people's eyes. I just somehow managed to get money for it.
Not in Phil Yates's eyes. He was very complimentary about it, Mike.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, well, Phil and I, we go way back. I grew up reading Phil in Snooker Scene magazine and listening to him on TV and thinking, wow, what a great job he's got and how good he is at it. So first met him in 1998. We just hit it off from the start, and we've been great friends ever since. We are merciless with each other, of course, as great friends tend to be, especially male great friends. But Phil's been brilliant. I've learned so much from him, and he's always been so supportive, and he was so established when I started working in Q Sports. But there was never any sense of him wanting to keep anyone out. He's always been so welcoming to younger guys coming in, and he was with me when I first met him at 21, and here we are all these years later, and we've travelled the world together, really, and experienced so much of life together. And
it really is incredible, and maybe I can take you back to the kind of beginning of that journey. How did that come about? Were you always in sports media, or was it always podcasting?
I was always just obsessed with sport. I came a little bit late, actually, compared to some kids. I was about 8, I think, when I really started getting into sport. It was football at first, and then over the next few years got into more and more things. And I always go back to a specific day in 1991 when Arsenal, my team, won the league.
I didn't know it was Arsenal.
Is the interview over?
No, it's not. Sorry, let's cut this right now.
Yes, it was only the second time I'd seen them win the league title. That was great. And then that night, John Paris, who was a player I followed from early on in my interest in snooker, won the World Championship. 91, very good. He beat Jimmy in the final. And I remember that night thinking, I'd love to be involved in this whole world of sport, but how on earth is that going to happen? And I'd always been interested in media and communication, so I thought, sports journalism.
Look at that, I'm even wearing my tag.
Exactly, yeah.
Sorry about that.
And off I went and studied journalism in college. And I think, like everyone needs, I had a little bit of good fortune early on and getting a few opportunities to get into all the different aspects of media, writing, broadcasting, all the rest of it. And was working in snooker at a very young age, and that's where I met Phil, and that was always a big passion of mine. And obviously then being involved in snooker, that led on many years later to working in pool.
Well, you've kind of got that, you've got that very recognizable voice. I can even tell now, talking to the commentators, you accentuate your wordsmiths. You can project your voice very easily. Is it something you have to practice?
Not really. I just I've always had that. And, back home in Ireland, I presented a radio show for many years. And it became kind of a thing, people doing impressions of me because I had such a distinctive voice. Nobody ever got it right, of course. But that's very flattering, of course, when it happens. And I guess being Irish as well helps, doesn't it? Because people love the Irish voice around the world. So that certainly never held me back.
Whereabouts in Ireland are you from? Is it Northern Ireland?
Yeah, originally, Del, I was born near Belfast.
Okay.
Moved to Dublin at an early age, grew up there and lived there till I was 39. Then I got married to a woman from Cork, and that's where I am now. So one of us had to move, and it kind of made more sense for me with what I do. She has a very stable job in a hospital, whereas I'm more the always on the road and that. So so I've been in Cork now for the last 9 years. So gradually working my way down the island.
That's fantastic to hear. And there's people really don't realise, I think, the amount of work and effort that goes into preparing for an event. And when I was talking to Phil earlier, he said that you're a bit of a stat man. Bit of a stato, as we call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so and you can recite and regurgitate information without even looking.
Well, he exaggerates that a little bit, but yeah, I was just blessed with an amazingly good memory, which I didn't realise actually until I realised, other people can't remember every single thing that ever happened, and and then I was always obsessed with dates and chronology as well.
Really?
That tied in well, but it's not like I did okay academically. But it wasn't something I could transfer because that amazing memory I was blessed with, it has to be something I'm really, really interested in. And fortunately, sport is something I'm really interested in.
Is it football? Is it rugby? Is it snooker? Is it just memorable dates to you?
Yeah, just everything, really. I mean, football, as I say, was the first sport I really got into. And that would have been in the mid-1980s. And I think over the years, I've probably watched every sport and got interested in every sport. As I get older, it kind of narrows a bit, the focus, and particularly as really now I work in 4 different sports, and everything else is just really passing interest at this stage.
Okay.
But yeah, I've just always had this this really good memory that's obviously been so useful.
It really has. Obviously, you're in the billiards world. How much of a contrast is that to other do you use the same techniques? Do you prepare the same way?
Yeah, I suppose in general you do. It's just all about having information and being prepared. You're not going to use it all. I mean, clearly the internet changed everything, from that point of view, and our job would be very different. I mean, I remember, as I said, I've been working in snooker for a very long time, and the association used to actually send this massive pile of paper to the houses of all the journalists every year. I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Really?
Yeah, not very environmentally sound. There's no way to do something like that now. But every year, about July or August, you hear this massive thump. This huge package of paper would fall through. But I mean, even statistics now in all sports have just grown so much because everything's available now. Everything's out on the internet. I think with pool, it isn't quite as organised as it is with other sports, because the idea of pool tournaments being televised in the way they are now is a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like an analogy I heard someone using many years ago. It's like all the pool information is there, but it's like walking into a library where all the books are on the floor, and as time goes by, we're putting them on the shelves. Yeah. And I know with the snooker, like myself and Phil and Dave Hendon and one or 2 others, I've built up this body of knowledge over many, many years. We're still kind of in the early stages of that with pool, trying to put together information, researching past results, and collating that then into not just information, but actual stats and patterns and facts that we can use. And that's a process that's still ongoing, but it's very exciting to be part of that.
Right, 95 World Snooker Champion.
Stephen Henry. Well, that's an easy one, because he used to win it every year.
I remember, I kind of grew up in the Henry era.
Yeah.
But I do find you make an interesting point on the stats. I find Americans are far more fanatical about their sports versus us in the UK, where we don't really, yes, we know a bit about our teams, but we don't know it to their degree.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing when you talk to Americans about sports. And, you look at it in the UK, and obviously being in Ireland, it's so influenced by the UK. You've got other big sports, but football rules everything, doesn't it?
It really does.
And it's so different over here because you've got baseball, you've got American football, you've got ice hockey, you've got basketball, and actually our football as well is becoming very, very big.
They've got a day of the week. They call it a religion.
Yeah.
Like NFL it's a Sunday religion. Yeah. It's like going to church. Same thing.
Yeah.
And I do find, like you said, their knowledge and passion for it has really kind of transferred. And I've noticed it more so in Florida this week. These guys are so, like we've mentioned, they're so passionate and knowledgeable about the game. They're kind of cheering safety.
Yeah, well, we were chatting earlier, weren't we? And the analogy I drew is it's very like going to a golf tournament in Scotland, because the crowd are so knowledgeable. They know what are the right shots to cheer and to applaud. They understand it so much. And yeah, we've seen passages of safety here at the Moscone that are getting cheered as much as the pots. And yeah, they're raucous, yeah, it's loud. But these people are really, really knowledgeable. And I do find with pool, perhaps more than any other sport actually, the percentage of people who go to it and watch it, who play it, probably higher than any other sport.
It really is, and I think it's the engagement the fans get and the closeness they get to the top tier elite level players that kind of draws that in. You couldn't do that in tennis or golf.
Players are so accessible. They really are, more so than in any other sport. And the other sports I work in, it's not so bad. Maybe football has gone away from that now. But the pool players are so accessible, and I think part of that is, as I was saying earlier, it's not like the idea of playing loads and loads of televised events every year. It's been going on a long time. I think we did 9 TV events with Sky last year. I mean, that's just way beyond anything that it was until quite recently. So the players actually they might grumble about 1 or 2 things, but the bigger picture, they're very appreciative of the opportunities they have now, the money they're playing for at this stage.
It's profitable. It's now a career. They've got the arc.
It is, and the top players live really good lifestyles with the money they earn. And I think they're appreciative of that, and they want to give back. And they want to help grow the sport and engaging with the media and the fans. You've seen it here this week. Guys being asked for, can you sign this ball? Can you sign this shirt? And it's a 100% yes ring from the players. And it's great to see. And I really hope if the sport continues to grow, and there's even more money and even more events, that it continues that way. There's such a good bunch of guys, really, aren't they? I mean, could you meet a nicer man than Francisco Sanchez Ruiz? you know. And there are others like him as well. There's great mate David and so many others too. Just really good guys and just a wonderful asset to the sport.
Well, this is where I kind of focus in and say, like, you know, we are really looking after the next generation of the sport. You know, the SVB Open, the Jason Shaw Open.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of joked with Marcel that could we find the next big referee? You know, because he's such a figurehead. I don't see it. The people really see it as a viable career choice. And as you've said, you know, you started in talk radio and you were in sports media and alternate, and you kind of just fell into billiards through your friendship with Phil.
Yeah, well, it was kind of, I suppose that was the from talking to Phil and knowing that he had worked in pool for such a long time, I was always aware of the behind the scenes developments. And he said to me, look, I'm not sure we're taking on the US Open next year. So that was the one in Las Vegas in 2019. And I'd been doing work with Matchroom for a long time. I'd been doing snooker with them for about a decade. Done a lot of golf with them as well. And I thought, okay, this is a big departure now. You know, I know they'd done the World Pool Championship back in the day, but that was some way back. This was a big thing now for them to be doing this multi-table event with all these matches. So I thought they're going to need commentators. So I knew the Matchroom guys well, and I said, look, just want to put my hand up. You know?
Absolutely, right down.
I've not done pool before, but I'm obsessed with Q Sports, so I definitely feel like I could do it. And didn't hear anything until, I'd say it was about 3 weeks before that US Open. And I got a call from Matchroom. It was like a Tuesday evening. Yeah. Can you come to Las Vegas in a few weeks? So off I went. And look, I was all new to it, and I wasn't thinking, okay, I'm going to go in and be, you know, as good as the accomplished guys. Because as much as I'd first watched an iron pool all the way back in 1987. And, you know, I remember watching the first Moscone Cup ever back in 1994. So I had an interest in the game. I knew a bit about it. But then translating that into commentating, I knew it wasn't going to be perfect first go, and it certainly wasn't. But as time has gone on then, I was supposed to do it again the next year. Got called off, obviously, because of COVID. So the next event I did was about a year and a half later, the COVID Moscone, as we call it, in Coventry. Yeah. And it's just grown from there. And
it's a metal for crowd noise.
Yeah, exactly. What an era that was. Now we push a button here for the smoke machine, which of course went wrong yesterday when it got out of hand. So that was it. That was the start of it. And you know, with every event, you know, learning more and more. And you know, when I was younger, I just played snooker and pool just all the time.
Do you play it yourself, or
very little now, which is amazingly, for all my knowledge of stats, I'm not 100% sure what my highest break at snooker was.
Bit of a century?
Oh, no, never got me on that level. I do remember making a 56. I think that's the highest. And then I actually made a 55 in the next frame. So that was an amazing time. And that was actually when I was only playing a lot less than I used to. And funnily enough, that's about 15 years ago now. That was really the end of me playing with any sort of regularity, because 2 kids came along, and and work and travel and everything.
They say it for the pro players when they get married and have a kid. They kind of they lose a couple of balls. Yeah, and they mean that in the terms of speed.
But yeah, so my enthusiasm always greatly outweighed my ability. But I played loads of pool as well. In Ireland, it was mostly 8-ball. I played a bit of 9-ball. But it was mostly 8-ball. It was only actually when I started travelling around that I started to play a bit more 9-ball, even before I was working in it. But yeah, I always had a cue in my hand when I was younger. I'm hoping my 2 boys get really into it now, and I've bought them a little pool table. We play a little bit at home. It's tiny little things about that size. But I'm hoping as they get a bit older, they'll want to play, and then they'll give me a chance to get right back into it.
Pretty sure Jason started the same way. Tiny table, and then you just build it up from there.
Yeah. Oh, we all started that way. I remember Christmas 1986, getting my little 4-foot Steve Davis Pop Blank Junior snooker table. You know, if you give me the keys to the Crucible, I couldn't have been happier. And then it just went on from there for the next 20 years or so, playing all the time.
That's incredible. And I bring it back to kind of like, you know, I think you're such a well-oiled commentary team now. And I've said as much in passing to Emily that, you know, I know she's really happy with it, but I think you've got such a good blend.
We do.
You know, professional players like, you know, Scott's really added a dynamic. You know, Jeremy and Carl have been staples, obviously with Phil and now yourself. I think there's that equal blend of colour and, you know, professionalism, knowledge, and the ability to hold a production of this level.
Yeah. It's very kind of you to say so, and I think that's the way it works best, you know, is to have a lead commentator from a journalistic broadcasting background, and then the player with the immense knowledge. Jeremy's he's unbelievable. The moment the balls come to rest after a break, he can just pick out every single thing of note straight away. Of course, he must have played and watched couldn't even put a number on it.
And coaches, they're all great coaches.
Yeah, Jeremy's so sought after as a coach. I would have loved to see Jeremy win a Moscone as captain. You know, he had a great playing record in it as well, made the winning 9-ball a couple of times. I would have loved to see him win one, because spending so much time with him over the last few years, I know how much it would have meant to him. But you're right what you say as well. Scott's great, you know. He came into the Moscone last year. He'd done a bit with us at the US Open. And I know he's done a lot of streaming commentary. But then he was on the team for the Moscone, effectively stepping in because JJ was captain. And he was so full of enthusiasm and questions. How do you think I should do this? And what are your thoughts on that? And he came and put so much into it. And at the end of the week, I was just able to say to him, you know, it's like you've been on the team for years. And it's great whenever he joins us.
Yeah. It's really good to kind of wrap up. And I want to ask a final question, because you're around when the Sky Sports era had the red button with the fan zone. Do you remember the fan zone commentary they used to do for Premier League?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if there might be something for, to do a fan zone.
That's what we are. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, right. You're just fans.
Yeah. Well, we are. And I think that comes across. I mean, Phil, I don't know if he said it when he spoke to it, but Phil was actually a really, really good snooker player. So his technical understanding of the game is really good. And he's just a sports obsessed.
He makes very strict, isn't he?
Yeah, he makes me look kind of, passive about sport. He's so obsessive about it, which is brilliant. And I have learned so much from him, and, a lot of that has rubbed off on me. Fan zone, are you volunteering for it, though?
No, I think there's a lot of people out there that have something to say.
Yeah.
And perhaps, bringing that to the forefront in the amateur game, because the reason I say that is I would really love, now that they've created this pro-level environment for top-tier players. Mm-hmm. Where's the next generation? Where's the feeder tour that goes to Q school or goes somewhere to kind of earn that talk time like they do in snooker?
Yeah, there's been talk of a Q school, and I would think more likely than not within the next 2 or 3 years we may see that come up, The other thing, of course, that Sky used to have as part of the fan zone is a short-lived thing. You could actually mute the commentary. You could watch the match and listen to the effects and have no commentary. So let's hope they don't go down that road again. Otherwise,
sometimes
it might be out of work.
There's an epidemic of streams right now, across, because it's becoming more popular, and there are people that do get muted because oh my gosh, can't listen to this. And this is where I said to Emily, I think that I think you've got it's never crossed my mind to ever turn the volume down. And in essence, I'd love to see the ear mic, the earpieces for the fans out there.
Yeah, that's something that I'd be pretty sure Matchroom are looking at to think that about, because you have it.
I'd like to listen to the commentary.
Yeah.
It is available. I know the technology's there, and I know they do it at the snooker.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't be able to hear it out there for the noise.
Oh, yeah, forget about it here. But certainly in some of the other events, where it's a bit quieter, but you still have a big enough crowd to make it sustainable. I think what we do, you do have a lot of streams there, and, it's real hardcore enthusiasts, and some very good players as well. I think, obviously we've got greats of the game, Jeremy, Carl Scott, and then a few others who guest at times. I think what Phil and I bring to it is just more of the broadcasting experience and how you then direct things along and direct the conversation to capitalise on the knowledge they have, but then to make it all, an overall accessible package that casual people are going to want to watch. And it's going to get people excited about the game. I think, that's been forgotten a lot in sports broadcasting, whether it's commentary or presenting. For me, the most important role of a sports broadcaster is to get people excited, make them feel this is something that's really worth watching and something I'm really going to get into. And that's what we're aiming to do, and hopefully we have some great success with it.
It's amazing, and I think, do you prepare your intros and your outros, or like?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah,
to you in the moment.
Yeah, sometimes it comes to you in the moment, but you'd be thinking about it during the day. Okay, I'm doing this match tonight. What would be a good opening line? And then you think that would really set the scene quite well. I don't want to get it wrong. I'll write it down and read it. Sometimes though, it's hard to broadcast to see things when you're actually reading it off the page. But yeah, sometimes we get it in.
I really appreciate that. I hope the fans can now put a face to the voice.
Sorry about the disappointment.
And maybe you could give us the outro.
Well, what kind of outro for? Talking English with Dell. He's a top guy. Join us for more next time.
There you go. See, pros just do it differently.